I would like to welcome everyone to the 24th episode of Money Trees. I'm your host, Khufu, and today we are joined by my brother north of the border, a hip hop connoisseur, king of the caption, lover of fashion, Connor Elssaesser. What's up, Con?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh man, blessed, highly flavored. I'm watching the snow melt around me after the snowstorm that we had, and I'm excited. I can't lie. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, we just got a big snowfall yesterday, so we're still in the thick of it. A little bit north of you, so it falls a little harder up here usually. So yeah, we're still got a good covering on the ground up here for sure.
Oh, just a little. Where exactly in the world are you at?
I'm just outside of Toronto, so I live in like a small like a university town outside of Toronto called Guelph. Yeah.
Oh, word, man. Well, it's been a little since we've caught up. How are you living outside of some snow? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm still working in the fashion space. I started a new job December 1st with a fashion company called Ports that I'm working on. They're like sort of more streetwear, ready to wear brand called Ports V. So that's a new and exciting opportunity that I'm working on. Aside from that, still trying to make beats in my basement occasionally and art in my garage, and just stay busy and stay positive. But yeah, that's about it.
Man, I don't know if you realized, but you played a huge part in me being able to like understand this new Web3 NFT landscape, right? You introduced me. Well, let me talk to you. Talk to the people. Connor introduced me to the concept of artificial intelligence designing. I guess you would call it. Is there like an official or more technical term I should be using?
No, I think that's basically it. So we worked on a project with one of your artists using. I was working with a company called Urban Coolab, so or UCL for short, and they basically created an artificial intelligence fashion designer. So we named him Stitch, or it Stitch, I should say. I shouldn't gender the AI. That's my bad. But yeah, so artificial intelligence fashion designer, and basically, you were familiar with the process, but you can submit inputs in the form of lyrics, images, logos, anything like that, and then the AI, based on your parameters and inspirations, would create unique graphic designs or fashion designs that we then apply to like physical garments. Now UCL is getting more into like digital fashion as well, because they've sort of recognized that artificial intelligence and fashion is sort of like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to digital fashion, metaverse, Net3, and that whole thing as well.
Yeah, it was wild for me being able to like just conceptualize, like get that conceptually. Where I'm like, okay, so you can take some audio and then you can take visual references and you're going to give me something new. Like, I was hesitant, and then you were showing me some of the designs, and I'm like, oh shit, this is actually fire. And so it clicked for me. Then I started seeing all these generative art projects in this space, and I was able to draw, that one-to-one connection right away. We kind of touched in with how the previous company was getting into it. What was like your first exposure, or what's been your exposure just to Web3 in the metaverse?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sort of I ironically, I met you working with a technology company. I'm a little bit old school. I'm more of a technophobe than a technophile, I would say. Like, so I'm I definitely appreciate the metaverse and that the concept of all of that, but I'm sort of a little cautious about it. I appreciate art in all its forms, though. So I think to me it's an opportunity. NFTs, digital art, artificial intelligence art, it's all an opportunity for people to be creative in new ways. You know what I mean? Like with the AI art, it's essentially like you put your inputs in. Like we worked with like you and your artists. We worked with Slick Rick, worked with Smith and Wesson. So some of like the hip hop artists that I grew up listening to. And, you know, they were very interested in it because it's just a new way to express yourself. You know, you can take music, or you can take an album cover or a logo, and then through the process of AI using, you know, neural networks, you can create new art from that. And I think NFTs are just another way, and the metaverse is just another place to sort of put art out into the universe and find an audience for it. Because I think that's, you know, with social media, that's a big part of what's difficult for a lot of artists is connecting with their audience. You actually put me on Discord, onto Discord, and like kind of explain, you know, why Discord is such a useful tool, because you're creating like an actually engaged audience. So I kind of just view all these new mediums and new places as just ways to explore creativity, which I'm all about. You know what I mean? I'm a creative person. I work in the creative industries. I think that's amazing. You're giving more people the opportunity to create and commodify their art, essentially, right?
Yo, 100%. Is there something, how do I want to ask this? What's been the most exciting thing for you that you have seen that you have not been a part of? So like, what's something you kind of saw from afar or read about or just experienced and were like, wow, this is a great use of this new technology?
Yeah, definitely. So I, previous to working with UCL, I worked with my sister, who's a fashion designer, and we kind of built her brand together. Like we did New York Fashion Week, Toronto Fashion Week a bunch of times, you know, collaborated with Nike and Microsoft and stuff like that. But she on her own, actually coincidentally, somebody had just randomly walked into our store like 3 or 4 years ago, and then kind of just stayed in contact with my sister, Haley. And they actually worked on an NFT project. It's called Nudies. So they're like cats, like hairless cats, hence the nude. And they did like 10,000 unique iterations of this nudie NFT with different clothing and accessories that my sister designed. So she did the designing of that. It was an all female team. So the founder's in her early 20s, and my sister's, you know, early 30s, and then there's a developer that worked at Microsoft as well. And they rolled this thing out, and like usually with my sister, I was sort of the marketing brains behind the operation, but she worked on this project, and I just sat back in awe and kind of saw what they put out there, and they marketed it to the nth degree. Like it was a really cool project with some really cool utilities, and like, you know, she gifted me a couple of the NFTs, which I was pumped on, but they sold out in, you know, they had the whitelisting ahead of time, and they built their community on Discord and on Twitter, and they did the thing, and then they dropped and they sold out in like an hour. So she made a bag off of that, and I was just like, wow, like this is legit if you do it properly, you know?
Yo, shout out to Nudies. Shout out to Haley. If you hear this, we would love to have you on Money Trees and discuss that. Connor has told me so much fire about you, even prior to the NFT drop. Shameless plug, Con. I'm sorry. I know this is your episode. All right, back to you.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just messing around, man. Tangents. I tend to do these on the show. Please just stay with me. I promise I'll get us back on track. But when I said that, right, about the just about how you mentioned your sister before a bunch when we've spoken, it made me think about how you made me up my Zoom game, right? Because every single time I hopped on a conference call with you, you would have like a fire backdrop. And I don't know, I think you were just rotating like the 3 or 4 spots in your house, but you had really, really sick art, man. And again, this has really nothing to do with anything outside of I just had that flashback thinking like why I now have a painting hanging over my desk. So that way when I'm Zooming people, it's not a blank background. And you made me not want to use the green screen. Just, shout out to you. Shout out to your Zoom game. Shit was fuego.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I've had a few comments on that. I like to, especially on creative calls, like I usually sat in my living room where it's all my art on the wall, so that if somebody's like, yo, what's that background? Is that a green screen? Or I'm like, no, I painted this. And then it's kind of like, you know, like a humble flex where you can be like, I'm creative. I kind of know what I'm talking about here. Let's discuss this cool creative project that we want to work on. But I think it's all just about curating that vibe and giving people the right energy and telling them about yourself. Like the one painting I have on my wall is like a reference to Wu-Tang Clan. I have like sort of like graffiti inspired stuff, and I'm just putting myself out there, even if I got to throw on a button-up shirt for a certain call, I still want people to know kind of who I am, because I'm all about, honesty and transparency.
Con, you might be the first guest on the show that knows more about old school rap than me, so I'll give you that. But shout out to, I think you told me before that you had paint. I didn't know you had did all of the artwork, so that's gas. We definitely need to plug your page after this. I like what you were mentioning though with the community building aspect of this, because that's been one of my favorite things, and that word gets thrown around a lot, and I've talked about it a bunch on the show, but community really is one of those elements that Web3 is helping grow and kind of foster that can change the way brands operate. And we talk about ownership and other really thrown around buzzwords, but those things do matter, especially when they're done correctly. And so I've been thinking about what that looks like more and more in the fashion world, right? And this may be alpha, so stop me if we start giving away some secrets, but do you know if your sister's planning? Because some of the nudies have really ill, like apparel. Do you know if there's going to be actual merch drops that go along with that, like that you could wear some of the stuff your NFT's wearing? Is that a roadmap thing or?
Yeah, so they actually did drop merch that's Nudies merch specifically, and then a lot of the designs that are on the Nudies themselves are previous designs that Haley designed for like her brand. So some of the stuff we did, like there's one that I'm thinking of in particular. I actually came up with the idea that it's a parody of the Harley Davidson logo, but it says something about like conspicuous consumption or something like that, rather than Harley Davidson. But yeah, so some of the like parody t-shirts that they're wearing, and then a lot of the prints. So my sister's known primarily for the prints that she creates, like a new take on camo or a new take on leopard and stuff. So yeah, a lot of it is already existing designs that she came up with, but they are, to your point, they've dropped a nudie specific merch drop where you can cop stuff that's like nudies themed. But if you go onto her website, HaleyElsaesser.com, throw that shameless plug in there for her as well, then you can buy a lot of the prints and the designs that are on the nudies already, because it's just sort of reinterpretations of designs that she's already done as well.
Please feel free to plug at any moment in this show. This is your episode, my G. No need for shame here. That's really fire, though. I just typed that in on my computer, so I have that saved to check out once we get up out of here. The idea of, so I have a question. Is it for holders only, the Nudies merch drop, or can anyone purchase it?
I think anyone can purchase it. I'm not 100% sure about that. I would have to double check that, but I think it's anyone can purchase it, because like I said, they did a great job of building this community, but there's also like, utilities like VIP access, and like they're talking about trying to do a cartoon with the nudies. And then if your nudies selected for the cartoon, you get royalties on that too. So there are tons of utilities associated. But I think the merch side of it was more about building that external community, like you mentioned, which, to me is all about sort of authenticity and just inviting everyone to the party, as long as they're sort of, interested in the same things, or, have the same value system and stuff like that. So I think that was a really important part about how they build it. Like, cause lots of people are trying to drop NFTs and make a buck on this, Net3, the new world, as it were. But why do I want to support you? Is like, you still need authenticity. You still got to build a brand. It doesn't matter if it's, a brick and mortar retail store or, real estate in the metaverse. If you don't convince me that I need to be associated with you, or there's not a compelling value proposition, it's worthless. So, yeah, that was a big part of what I think really helped with the Nudies project was, it is an all-female team. They're all young. They're all genuinely interested in doing this and genuinely interested in building a community that's like a cool, safe space, where it's positive and it's it's sort of almost a I don't want to say it's a counterpoint, but there can be a lot of negativity associated with crypto and the metaverse and stuff like that. Like I think a lot of people are still very apprehensive. Like I saw LVMH specifically in the fashion world. Bernard Arnault is the chairman of LVMH, which obviously owns like Louis Vuitton and a lot of those brands. And he basically said, I don't want to be selling €10 sneakers in the metaverse, which I thought is kind of funny considering Nike bought Artifact. But
Whoo, oh man. Okay. Now we're getting into the real bag here. So, does fashion on your avatar matter as much as fashion in real life? And I know that there is no right or wrong answer to that. Just your take on it. Where are you currently standing on it? Especially as someone as fashion forward as you, where I'll say, your Instagram posts, you're constantly experimenting with outfits, constantly looking to kind of push those boundaries. There well, yeah, let me not even answer that for you. Just what are your where's your why can't I talk today, man? What is your stance on that?
see, I'm kind of two minds because like I with my fashion, like I don't necessarily think that you need the like most expensive things. Like I don't really wear like I like some designer fashion, but I'm not necessarily splashing out on the most expensive pieces. I think it's more about like curation. So like how you put together an outfit. To me, that's like being truly fashionable or truly stylish. So you can have pieces in your wardrobe that are very good quality and are going to last a little longer, and you take that a more sustainable approach to that. You can have vintage pieces, you can have basics, and kind of the real art to me is how you put that all together. And then I think fashion for your avatar right now, I think it's less about that curation, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more about like it feels like at this point it's kind of more like trying to commodify something in a digital space. Like I'm a huge fan of Nike, but they didn't buy Artifact so that they could give away virtual sneakers. Like I think they bought it so that they add another feather in their cap of another revenue stream where they can sell digital fashion. So to me, like it becomes almost like my approach isn't you need a lot of money or you need to buy the most expensive things in order to be fashionable. My approach is you need to have your own personal style and you need to experiment, push the boundaries, and put that out there. So I'm kind of like, I don't think any of these digital fashion items are going to be free. And right now, a lot of them are like very inflated in value. I'll give you a real example. Like I said, I love Nike. I collect sneakers. I don't buy any of the like $500 or $1,000 sneakers. I just buy ones that look good with my outfit. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my take.
Yo, man, no, you're definitely not wrong. I don't think anyone like you can't be really right in this space because we have to let it develop. I use the example of like Fortnite, right? When I start to try to make the digital fashion make sense to me. Because where I'm at with it is I couldn't imagine spending, I don't really buy that much crazy designer fashion either. I've said it. There's only maybe one or two brands that I have a lot of designer fashion of, and it's because I know both of the designers there, like personally, and so I want to support them. But when I start thinking about like my avatar, it's not as cut and dry because you kind of have different avatars and different wearables that are platform specific. If I buy something in Sandbox, I can't really use it on my avatar elsewhere. Or if I buy, my clothes in Decentraland, I can't really use that somewhere else. And so since the fashion doesn't get to travel with me, I'm not as excited about it. But when I brought up the Fortnite side of it, I was hesitant when I first thought about skins, and then I started playing Fortnite season 3, and I was like, nah, I'm just I forget. Man, it's been so long since I played, but I forget what they call you when you don't have a skin. But anyway, that was that, and after like a month, I was like, damn, I really want a skin, and it was from that usage and from being in that environment. I was like, okay, let me spend some money on this, and I only played Fortnite for 2 seasons, but by the end of season 4, I had probably spent almost $300 on skins, which was mind blowing to me because it was a free game. And that type of was a change in consumer behavior is going to be interesting as the platforms start to grow, where it becomes maybe you won't spend the expensive amount on the sneakers in person because it's not as cool of a flex. Like I don't like buying expensive shoes. I'm in New York. The roads are dirty. The streets are dirty. Walking around with expensive J's or expensive kicks, I'm only gonna get 5, 6 uses out of them before I have to really heavily wash them again. And then you're worried about walking and creasing them. And it's all of these kind of things I just don't want to have to think about me personally. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, wait a second, man. If I buy my Yeezys in the metaverse, they'll never get dirty. They'll always be clean. They'll always be crisp. And it does still have a level of curation if the platforms improve. Now, that was kind of specific, but a little generic at the same time, too. So I think it amounts to like, we don't know. And we just need to see how these platforms evolve. I know that I'm open to it. I would say before, prior to Fortnite, I probably would have said, hell no, there's no way I'm ever buying any type of wearable, blah, 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 blah. But at this point, I am more open to the idea. So it's interesting just to see where other folk like yourself are landing at. There's another thing I wanted to chop with you on. Are you familiar with like the smart glasses? Not any particular brand, just the concept of them.
Yeah. I was familiar, like the first time they kind of came around, and then people were kind of weirded out by it. I think it was the Google Glass originally, and then like the evolution of that from there. I'm definitely familiar.
So one of the dope kind of new, I guess, say fashion ideas I've been rocking with is the ability to use the smart glasses to try on clothes at home, where you'll be able to stand in front of a mirror, wear your glasses, and look at the AR projection of what a fit may look like on you right at your house and see the sizes and like have accurate measurements. And that doesn't, fully exist yet. But I know on Amazon, like when I go shop for sunglasses, uh, maybe I shouldn't be saying that I'm shopping for sunglasses on Amazon. Is that a faux pas? I'm sorry, I do. And you can try the sunglasses on your face using your phone's camera. And so, yeah, that was just like a little anecdote that I think there's going to be some cool use cases for the tech that's going to come about.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few fashion trade shows, like in Vegas and stuff, where I've seen some of this technology. I think the potential is massive. Like, I think in terms of like virtual try-ons, that's huge for e-commerce. E-commerce sales in fashion aren't as high, or haven't historically been as high as we think they are. Like prior to the pandemic, 2019, it's probably only 30% of clothing sales that are done online. But because of the pandemic, that number jumped to like close to 50% probably. So these technologies are going to need to improve going forward. The real trouble, like I'm all for that. I think that's amazing. I know like the trying on glasses on websites, before you buy them, I think that's a great technology. Glasses are easy though, because there's only so many dimensions, and they probably standardize them, and your face, you can get like a pretty good approximation of that. With fashion, it's a little more difficult, just because, depending on, even between like in individual brands, season to season, there's variations with fit. And like, you would know, some Nike stuff, I'm a tall guy, some Nike stuff is exactly the right length on me. Some stuff is too short, even though I'm built like a basketball player, it doesn't necessarily fit me the right way, for example, but other stuff fits me perfectly, and it's the same brand. So there's a lot of, there's not a lot of standardization even within the same brands. And then if you look at the industry as a whole, you would know if you try on like a 32 jean at American Eagle, they're going to have, stretch in it, and it's more like a vanity size, versus if you try on like a vintage Levi's size 32, it's going to fit completely differently just because of the fabrication. Also, the like actual fabric itself has such a huge impact on how things fit. So like, a silk shirt or like a polyester shirt or a cotton shirt, even if they're all the exact same size and the same like dimensions, they fit very differently. So that's a really, really interesting use of technology that could really revolutionize the industry and like allow for a lot more e-commerce sales in apparel that, you know, people aren't worried about having to return or exchange. So it could be a huge money saver, but just like the upfront of standardizing and actually figuring out those dimensions in 3D is we're still a long way away from that. So even when the technology's there, I think the industry will take some time to catch up to it. But I think that's a very, very interesting use.
Yo, you brought up some crazy points that I definitely did not think about because you're right. There are so many times when I'll go and buy my size one place and it does not translate to the other spot. I really only normally think about that with sneakers. I normally don't try things on when I go out. That's a problem. Anyway, see, tangents, starting to digress. Yo, okay, so we know that there's a potential for it, but there's going to be some hurdles. I think that there's something that has a better solution for virtual e-commerce, which is not a better solution, but just an easier pathway to adoption, we can say, which is the ability to change the actual shopping experience. Have you seen the video that's going around of Walmart's proposed virtual shopping experience?
I don't know if I saw it or a parody, but it's probably the real one, and it was. I don't know. I'll just let you talk on it because what I saw seemed like it was a parody. But
was it the lady pushing the cart and then like the person pops up and they were talking to her saying, "Oh, you know, here, get the wine. It goes good with your red, or it goes good with your rice. I mean, or something like that."
No, it was somebody
Okay.
like I think it was probably a parody then, but it was somebody basically just like throwing product off the shelf at like a virtual sales associate. But
Oh, okay. I'll send it to you offline and you can just look at it. I don't know if I would go virtually shopping in Walmart. I think I would rather just pick my items. But for stores that have, like, you know, if you've been in one Walmart, you've literally been in them all. But for many stores, especially smaller boutique stores, their flagship stores and their in-store experience is a lot different than online. And for sure, you can have some great web design that feels really dope, but you're just limited as to the ways you can display your art. And so when I saw that Walmart video, it just kind of got me thinking. And there's some other platforms. I also put you on to Muse, which you may have seen, or we built our virtual galleries off of, where the idea of being able to have a store in New York and I can scan my store, upload that, you know, online, have my items available. You can't obviously grab them yet with the technology, but you can view them and see them. So you can go online instead of having to shop in the classic just 3x3, you know, boxy scroll way. You can virtually enter the store and walk around the store and see some of the architecture that we have there. Like, I think it would be hella cool if Supreme had a virtual store, and if you went shopping on Supreme, you could look at all the clothes the way they have them on the like on the shelf, but then also enter into the skate bowl that they have, where you could literally enter like a skating mini game in the middle of your Supreme experience. Or like some of the crazy ass Louis Vuitton stores that are around the world. If you're not in the city, you can't go look at it. So you could never experience that. But there's a lot of value in being able to show people these types of experiences. So I think that that's another thing. Is if you're not super familiar with the idea, I think will start to take hold where we'll have these virtual shopping experiences that add another layer.
yeah, I think there's massive potential in that too. It kind of reminds me of like back in the day when they had, I think it was Need for Speed, where they had maps that were like actual cities, like the video game, or like Tony Hawk, where it was like Vancouver or Sydney, Australia, or whatever, and like you could recognize actual landmarks, where you're sort of brought into that experience more. And I think that's massive because so many brands spend so much money and like hire, you know, world class interior decorators or designers to design these physical spaces that tell their brand story and are like a reflection of what their brand is for the world. And you sort of miss out on a big part of that experience if you've never been in the physical store. Like I own, you know, I live outside of Toronto. There's no Supreme store here. I own a fair few Supreme pieces, but I've never been in a Supreme store. I think I'm probably missing out on that experience. You know what I mean? So I think there's huge potential there. It's all just about, at the end of the day, building your brand and like creating touch points that people relate to and that resonate with them so that they want to come back. So I think tools that do that, like for me, I'm kind of like you. Like I hope I never get to the point where I'm like, wow, I'm going to go shopping in virtual Walmart today, and today's going to be a good day, because that to me sounds like a kind of a scary proposition. But to shop virtually in a Louis Vuitton store or a Supreme store, to me, there's value in that for sure. And then you're adding mini games, man, like that's just next level marketing, where that's truly experiential marketing in the digital space. And then, like, oddly, you're probably bringing people more into that. You know, you see, we all probably follow something on Instagram that shows us like getaways in Italy, or crazy cabins or cottages in the mountains, and we like imagine ourselves holidaying in these places. It's probably the same thing for retail destinations too. So then they become actual destinations, right?
Yo, man, that was actually a really, really great kind of parallel there. Speaking on how we're constantly looking at these vacation destinations on Instagram or on our Pinterest boards, or any of the Tumblr throwback right there. It's kind of wild to think, yo, would Walmart up their interior design? Because I think that it's designed that way for just functionality, where it's like, you're going there, they need low prices, and they can't really afford to have all these crazy brick and mortar stores that are well designed. But maybe the Walmart virtual experience can be better. Yeah, Walmart, if you're listening, I'm gonna need you to break me and Con off with a consultation fee, because that first version that y'all did is not it. We need some luxury design up in our Walmart, and then I'll actually want to do it VR. All this tech talk, work talk, man, it's interesting, because one of the things that's always resonated with me about you is how like honest you are. And you're honest about the struggles, and you're honest about the highlights of life. And so just before you get out of here, what's been helping you stay grounded during these last couple of years, man? Because the pandemic has been nuts, and it's been crazy for everyone. I know life is a little bit different over in Canada. So yeah, what's been helping you stay grounded?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, like I'm a person. I'm honest with myself. I do struggle with mental health issues. I'm honest with other people. I'm kind of an open book. But the thing that really helps me is just progressing in some way, because then I just feel like regardless of what's happening, if I can have some form of control over something in my life, that I feel like I'm progressing at or getting better at, then I can feel okay, because I have that to go back to. So I didn't grow up. I studied music. I used to play shows. So writing music for a long time was that, and physical fitness is always a thing for me. Like if I don't physically exercise, I start to get I go stir crazy. So thankfully, I was able to set up a makeshift gym in my basement, so that if gyms are closed, I can still work out here. I did my executive MBA during the pandemic, because I was like trying to, better myself academically as well. So just trying to progress in some way. That's kind of how I, just sort of stay sane, is just one, trying to be honest with myself. I'm trying harder to be gentle with myself. I'm bad at that. Like I pour myself into activity to kind of feel better. So I'm not the learn how to relax and breathe and chill. I'm bad at that. That is something I'm trying to work on. But for me, just constantly trying to better myself. So in whatever way that is. And then I do find that like having conversations and being open and honest with people and sharing, like I'm okay talking about whatever it is to whatever person. I think that also helps in that like you said, I'm honest because I'm just always sort of myself. So I don't have to put on airs to, pretend I'm X in this environment or pretend I'm Y in this environment. I'm just me all the time, which is, maybe it doesn't work for everyone. And maybe some people think, I'm a little too in your face or too authentic or whatever it is. I'm not sure, but that's kind of just my approach, is try to move forward constantly and just be yourself,
Yo, no such thing as too authentic, G. You said that. You said that so eloquently. I don't. I. It's crazy because you said to be gentle with yourself thing, and I don't have enough appendages to count how many times people have probably said that to me this year, and I relate to that. And so we've had these conversations just personally. Part of Money Trees is having these dope people that are around me come on here. We have these conversations, loose format. I center it around Web3 and just future tech, but it's also just based around the idea that, like, yo, when we chop up, this is the ish that we're talking about. You're listening in on pretty much how our conversations go. I try to center them a little bit more on the guest than myself for the most part, which, the conversations tend to be a bit more balanced where we're going back and forth. But I think it's because, well, one, I'm doing it 4 times a week and the guests are doing it once, but also I think that there's a lot of value to be shared from a lot of these minds. So I know for a fact someone's going to listen to this, hear your description of how you cope, how you deal, and be able to relate to that. And whether it's one person or 100,000 people, it doesn't matter to me because we just got to be doing that work to help, push it forward, pay it forward. I want to thank you for coming on today. We've touched on some really, really fire topics. We need to keep exploring this. I'm wishing you luck on your new ventures. Very excited to see what the future holds for you. But before you get out of here, I have 2 questions I ask everyone on Money Trees. The first question is, what is your seed phrase? And now in Web3, your seed phrase is commonly known as like your account recovery key, which is the 12 or 24 word key that you're given that allows you to recover your crypto wallet. My issue is seed phrase is not a scary enough term because when you hear seed phrase, it doesn't make you want to protect it. I don't know. It's just not, I don't know. It's too round, maybe. And when people lose their seed phrase, they lose access to all of their cryptocurrencies and their NFTs. So here on Money Trees, we're repurposing seed phrase. Seed phrase is going to be the quote, slogan, lyric that you live by that kind of embodies your personal ethos, we can say. So, Connor Elssaesser, what is your seed phrase?
Well, I have C.R.E.A.M tattooed on my forearm. For good or bad, cash rules everything around me is my seed phrase because I'm not necessarily driven by money. I'm driven by my passions, and I'm driven by trying to make a difference and trying to make change and do things that I enjoy doing. But I have to acknowledge that, for good or bad, money kind of makes the world go around. Money trees. I hope we plant a couple because that's kind of how it is. So my seed phrase is cash rules everything around me.
Cash rules everything around me. Holla. Yo, I love that. For so many reasons. The second question is, speaking on cash, what is the price we're going to list this one of one Money Trees number 24 note for?
So we'll stay on the theme here. So C.R.E.A.M is obviously a reference to Wu-Tang Clan. I think the greatest hip hop album of all time is 36 Chambers, which was released in 1993. So let's go 1993. $1,993. Let's do that.
There it is, G. Yo, man, again, thank you for coming on here and sharing. This has been fire. I will hit you offline. I need to send you some of these Walmart videos. Maybe you could find that parody and I can check it out too. Um, but yeah, man, we'll stay in contact, man. I love catching up with you, Con.
I appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you asking me to come on and chat with you, and I look forward to our next conversation, online, offline, wherever that may be. Appreciate you, man.
There it is, G. All right, stay up. Have a good weekend. I'll catch everyone later.